बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम वसल्लल्लाहु अला नबिय्यिल करीम रब्बि इश्रह ली सदरी वयस्सिर ली अमरी वहलुल उक़्दतम मिन लिसानी यफ़क़हू क़ौली। The topic for this evening is the importance of adjustment. Now, what is adjustment? Adjustment means settlement. It is to settle a matter of conflict peacefully, even on unilateral basis. This is adjustment. Adjustment is a law of nature. Without adjustment, there is no progress, no development in this world. Recently, I happened to meet a lady. She was a married lady. She said that I am not comfortable with my husband, so I want separation. I said, no, separation is not an option. You have to make adjustment. You have to opt for adjustment. She said, no, it is 21st century. We are living in an advanced century. And now there is no question of adjustment. There is a wrong perception. Adjustment is not a matter of time. It is not a matter of 21st century or 41st century. Adjustment is an eternal value. Adjustment is a universal culture. Everywhere in the world you find adjustment. Among stars, among planets, and in plant kingdom and animal kingdom, everywhere there is adjustment. So is the case of mankind. Why? What is the reason? Reason is that it is a requirement of creation plan of God. God created man and gave him total freedom. Every man and woman are free to do anything, because we are here only for test. And without freedom, there is no test. Freedom is a prerequisite of test. So when one is free, so he is also free to misuse his freedom. God is not going to abolish his freedom until the doomsday. So what to do? We have no other option except to adjust with other people. In family life, in society, in national life, in international life, everywhere, there is no option other than adjustment. The alternative of adjustment is disaster. The alternative of adjustment is negativity, intolerance, violence, hate, and all these things are disaster. So in this world, we have no option other than to adjust with others. Now, in every situation, there are two options. In every situation, every day and night, there are two alternatives. Either to adjust with others or go to conflict. And conflict is not good for anyone. So when we adjust, we only avoid conflict. This is mentioned in the Quran in these words. As-sulhu khair. These are Quranic verse. As-sulhu khair means adjustment is the best option. Why God Almighty says like this? Because God is not going to abolish the freedom, and we have no power to abolish the freedom. So, in social life, we are a social animal. You know, this said that man is a social animal. We have to live in a society, in a family, in a nation. So, it is but natural that we will face some unpleasant situation, some unwanted situation. So, as we have no power to abolish the freedom of other people, and also God is not going to abolish their freedom, so we have no option other than to adjust. We have no option other than to adjust with other people in our family, in our society, in our nation, in international life also. So adjustment is the only key to success in worldly matters as well as in religious matters. You can ask a businessman who is successful businessman. Successful businessman is one who has adopted adjustment as his policy. Every day, a businessman makes adjustment with others. Otherwise, he will go to failure. So, in all the worldly matters, we have no option other than to adopt adjustment. For example, you are traveling your car on road. So when you avoid, when you adopt left side or right side, as the case may be, then there is adjustment. If you are living in India, you keep left. There is adjustment. When you are living in USA, you keep right. There is adjustment. By adjustment, you avoid accident. If you fail to make adjustment, then the result is accident on road. So all the worldly affairs need adjustment. Business or job or education, social activities, political activities, everywhere you need adjustment. Even a president or a prime minister need to adjust with his colleagues, with other parties. Then the same principle is for religious people, especially dawa work. If you want to do dawa work, there is no way except to make adjustment with others. The adjustment bring about normalcy in society. If it is quite necessary to have a normal situation in our society, normal situation between Dai and Madhu. So how to obtain this normalcy? It is through adjustment, through patience, through tolerance, through avoidance. All these words are very similar. All these words are very similar. Adjustment, peace, tolerance, and avoidance, all these, and patience, all these things, all these words are very similar. So if you want to do the work, you need normalcy, you need peaceful situation. So when you adjust with other people, it means that you are trying to establish peace. You are trying to establish normalcy. Without such situation, there is no dawa work. There is a very good example in the Prophet's life. لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. In the Prophet of Islam, in the life of the Prophet of Islam, there is a good example for you. You see, the Prophet of Islam was born in Mecca, and he started his mission in 610 AD in Mecca. So at that time, there were a number of problems were there. For example, there was Darun Nadwa in Mecca. Darun Nadwa was seat of political power. So Prophet never demanded to have a share in this political system. Although it was his right as being a citizen of Mecca, being a member of Banu Hashim, so he never demanded to have a share in Darun Nadwa. In present term, it was a tribal parliament. In present term, you can say that Darun Nadwa was a tribal parliament. It was seat of political power. So yes, they have issued some orders that were not favorable to the Prophet or his companions. But Prophet simply adjusted, avoided. There are no protests, no demand. So it was a case of adjustment with the political situation in Mecca. Then You know, in Mecca there was the old place of worship, that was Kaaba, that was Baitullah. This this place of worship, or this Baitullah, was built by Prophet Abraham as Darut Tawheed, house of Tawheed. But at that time, that is in the first quarter of 7th century, Quraysh have obtained trusteeship of Kaaba, and at that time they were mushrik. So they placed several hundred idols in Kaaba, not only for worship, it was their business. They wanted to promote a business. In modern terms, we can say it was center of tourism. Every day, people used to come over there, and there was markets, there were shopping centers, there were so many economic benefits. So it was like a tourism, religious tourism. But this religious tourism was based on shirk. But Prophet of Islam never protested against this uh, this unwanted tourism. He simply adjusted. He simply avoided. He simply tolerated. Then there were other problems. For example, under the under the under the tribal parliament in Darul Nadwa, they have restricted religious freedom. There was no such religious freedom which we enjoy in our times. There were some different, it was a kind of religious persecution at that time. So they persecuted those people who have embraced Islam. So it was like it was against the human rights. It was violation of human rights. But Prophet of Islam never protested. He simply avoided. He adjusted. So why Prophet of Islam adopted the formula of adjustment? Only for one reason only, that to establish normal situation, to establish peace, so that he may do the work. So he gave all the price. And it worked. Up to 13 years, Prophet was engaged in our work, and this was very successful. All those big Sahaba, all those important personalities who embraced Islam were from Mecca. For example, Abu Bakr, Umar, Usman, Ali, Aisha, and so many other Sahaba. So Prophet of Islam followed the principle of adjustment. You know, in the beginning, God Almighty revealed the chapter Al-Muddassir. Al-Muddassir is a chapter included in the Quran. This was revealed to the Prophet of Islam in the beginning, in the early period of prophethood. In this chapter, God Almighty says, Ya ayyuhal muddassir qum fa'anzir. Qum fa'anzir. Then he says, Wali rabbika fasbir. Wali rabbika fasbir. O Muhammad, do the work and keep patience for the sake of God. This was the first commandment given by God Almighty in Mecca. Qum fa'anzir wa rabbika fasbir. Do the work and keep patience for the sake of God. What was this patience? It was adjustment. It was nothing but adjustment. No reaction, no complaint, no protest. This is the gist of adjustment. This is the spirit of adjustment. So, Prophet of Islam was engaged in the work successfully in Mecca. But how he became successful? What is the secret of this success? The question is, what was the secret of his success in the work? The secret lies in adjustment. There were in Mecca at that time, there were religious persecution. There were atrocities. There were idol worship. And so many things. But Prophet of Islam never protested, never complained, never demanded anything. Only to keep peace, only to keep normalcy. So this was his adjustment in that period. And at that time in Mecca there were different religious communities. And also in Medina there were different religious communities. At that time, Mecca and Medina were not Islamized city. Now it is fully Islamized city. All the citizens of Mecca are Muslims. All the citizens of Medina are Muslims. But in the first quarter of 7th century, the situation was quite different. There were non-Muslims also. Christian, Jew, Mushrik. So he adopted a very beautiful formula, very, very practical formula. That was, Lakum deenukum waliya deen. For you, your religion, for me, mine. It means that I am giving you freedom, or you please give me freedom. You are free, and also I am free. It was mutual freedom. By this, Prophet of Islam established normalcy, and he organized the work peacefully. There was no hate, no complaint, no violence, no conflict, no confrontation. Then, in Medina also he adopted this formula. Because at that time in Medina there were 3 communities. Muslims, Mushrik and Jew. So he adopted the same formula. When he settled in Medina after 13 years, he issued a declaration that is called in history Misaqul Medina. That is Medina Declaration. In this Misaq or declaration, he stated, Lil Muslimina Deenhum, Walil Yahudi Deenhum. For Muslims, their religion. For Jews, their religion. It means that I am free to observe my religion. And also you are free to follow your religion. Then when he was in Mecca and Meccan people became hostile, they wanted to kill the Prophet of Islam. They adopted a resolution in Darul Nadwa. And under Darul Nadwa, they decided that they will kill the Prophet of Islam. It was a unanimous resolution. Then what happened? Although at that time there were several hundred people with the Prophet of Islam, he was not alone. In Mecca and in suburban areas, in Medina, in total there were several hundred Muslims at that time. But Prophet never organized any war. He simply migrated from Mecca to Medina. This was also an adjustment. This was also an act of adjustment. At that time, there were two options before the Prophet of Islam. Either go to conflict or leave Mecca. When Meccan people passed a resolution in Darul Nadwa, that was tribal parliament, to kill Prophet of Islam or to compel him to migrate from Mecca. So he never tried to protest against this resolution that it was against the human rights. It was a violation. It was a clear violation of human rights because he was a citizen. He is a born citizen of Mecca. He has every right to live in Mecca. He and his father and his grandfather all were born in Mecca. It was his birthright to live in Mecca. So their resolution adopted in Darul Nadwa was a violation of human rights. But he never protested. He never demanded anything. He left Mecca. He migrated from Mecca. But what was this migration? There were houses of all those companions. There was house of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, house of other companions. So they left their property, they left their houses, they left their everything without any protest. It was a high kind of adjustment or tolerance. So according to Islam, adjustment means establishing peace at any cost. According to Islamic teachings, adjustment means to establish peace at any cost. Adjustment is not passivity, it is not cowardice. No, it is a positive policy. Adjustment is not a cowardice uh, or a retreat. No, it's not a retreat. It is advancement. It is advancement. Because when you avoid, when you adjust, then you buy time. You avail the opportunities. You establish peace in the society so that you may do the work. The work is the greatest concern of a movement. So the work was the greatest concern of Prophet of Islam sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he sacrificed everything, only to find opportunity for the work. This was his policy. So when the Prophet of Islam migrated from Mecca and settled in Medina, it was a clear case of adjustment or avoidance or tolerance. All these words are very similar to each other. Then what happened? When he came to Medina, he never followed the path of reaction. He never complained. He never protested. He simply built a mosque in Medina. When Prophet of Islam settled in Medina, the first work was to build a mosque in Medina. That was mosque of peace. In this mosque, there was no that kind of talk, that kind of talk that is based on intolerance, protest, demand. No, it was simply for worship, for the work. So he engaged himself in the work. But the Meccan people, under the leadership of Quraysh, were not happy with the situation. They wanted to kill his mission. They felt that it is a danger for their shirk culture. Prophet of Islam was Prophet of Tawheed. He always promoted, he was engaged in promoting Tawheed. He was a Muwahhid. So Meccan people, that is Quraysh, they saw danger in a mission of this kind. They were mushrik. A Prophet of Islam was Muwahhid. Theirs was shirk culture. The Prophet of Islam was engaged in promoting Tawheed culture. So they saw danger. They wanted to eliminate the mission of the Prophet of Islam. So they attacked unilaterally. They organized army, and there was 300-mile distance between Mecca and Medina. So they organized the enemy and they attacked Medina. So there were some skirmishes, not a full-fledged battle. Now, when we use term war or battle, it means a full-fledged war. But Prophet of Islam always avoided to go to full-fledged war. You know, in Mecca, what was the culture? It was culture of war. They used to fight up to 100 years. Maulana Altaf Hussain Hali said in his Musaddas Hali, وہ بکر اور تغلب کی باہم لڑائی صدی جس میں آدھی انہوں نے گوائی. And they were engaged in fighting up to 50 years. 50 years, 50. So war was their culture. But Prophet avoided war, avoided battle. There was no full-fledged battle at all. In the life of the Prophet of Islam, there was not a single war that you can say full-fledged war. It was simply skirmishes. Skirmishes. Why? Because the policy of Prophet Islam was avoidance, adjustment, tolerance, peace. Then what happened? Prophet of Islam started negotiation. He initiated a negotiation between himself and Quraysh. This negotiation lasted up to 15 days. At Hudaybiyah. It is called Hudaybiyah negotiation. So after 15 days of negotiation, Prophet of Islam was able to obtain a peace treaty. It is called Hudaybiyah Treaty or Hudaybiyah Agreement. Now, how this Hudaybiyah Agreement was made possible? Only after sacrifice. Prophet gave a great sacrifice for this Hudaybiyah peace treaty. Even Sahaba were not in favor of this agreement. Umar Farooq, who was the second caliph after the Prophet of Islam. So Umar Farooq was present over there. He said, when he saw that Prophet of Islam is ready to accept all those conditions laid by Quraysh unilaterally, only to have peace, only to sign a peace treaty. Prophet of Islam was ready to accept all those conditions laid by the other party, that is Quraysh. So Umar Farooq said, Lema nu'ti daniyata min dinina. It is humiliating agreement. We are not ready to accept this kind of agreement. Daniya means humiliating. So according to Umar Farooq and also other companions, it was a humiliating agreement. But Prophet of Islam accepted this humiliating agreement. This was, on his part, it was sacrifice. For what? Why Prophet of Islam gave such sacrifice? Only to obtain peace, only to establish peace. So peace treaty of Hudaybiyah was signed at Hudaybiyah. And then all those activities, violent activities stopped. There was no war between the two parties. And when hostilities stopped, when there was no war, then Prophet of Islam and his companions engaged themselves in dawah work. Every day and night there was dawah work. Dawah work, dawah work, dawah work. And what was the result? Result was miraculous result, miraculous. At the time of Hudaybiyah, with the Prophet of Islam, there were only 1,400 people. 1,400 people. But only after 2 years, they became 10,000. The number of Sahaba increased so rapidly that within 2 years they became 10,000. It is mentioned in the Bible also. In the Bible, there is a verse. He came with 10,000 saints. He came with 10,000 saints. It was so important, so miraculous, so great that God Almighty mentioned it in the Bible also. So when they became 10,000, they became so powerful that no one was able to dominate over them. So simply number was enough to achieve success from Medina to Mecca. This was miracle of peace. This was miracle of adjustment. This was miracle of avoidance and tolerance. So Islam is a religion of peace. You know, the word Islam is, even the word Islam has a connotation of peace. The root word of Islam is silm, that is S-I-L-M, silm. Silm means peace. So Islam means religion of peace. Why Islam is religion of peace? Why God Almighty given this name? Because everything we want in Islam need peace. For example, worship, fasting, Hajj, and dawah work, and all those things which are required in Islam, they need peace. Without peace, you cannot perform worship. Without peace, you cannot perform fasting. Without peace, you cannot perform Hajj. Without peace, you cannot perform dawah work. So peace is essential for all the Islamic activities. Peace is essential. Peace is essential for all kinds of Islamic activities. And adjustment is the price of peace. Adjustment is a sacrifice, a price. Without adjustment, without patience, without tolerance, you cannot establish peace. So Islam needs peace for all its activities, including the work. And these activities cannot go without peace. And peace cannot be established without tolerance, without adjustment. So I can say that adjustment is not a simple thing. You know, in every situation there are two options. In every situation, there are two options. One, result-oriented option, and the second, result-less option. In every situation, there are two options. First, result-oriented option. Second, result-less option. So, first option is healthy option, constructive option. And the second option is destructive option, negative option. Islam always opts for the first option, that is adjustment, tolerance, patience. So you have to know that there is no other option for us in this world. If we want some worldly success, we need adjustment. If we want some Islamic success, we need adjustment. And adjustment requires sacrifice. Without sacrifice, you cannot obtain anything in this world. Sacrifice is the only price of super achievement. I have read a book. Its title was Super Achievers. In this book, there were some stories of super achievers. So all these super achievers, and all these super achievers gave great sacrifices. Then they achieved super achievement. No super achiever was able to achieve super achievement without giving sacrifice. And the greatest sacrifice is adjustment. Although it is psychological sacrifice, but it is very, very difficult. It's very, very difficult. Psychological sacrifice is difficult, more difficult than the physical sacrifice. Physical sacrifice is easy, but psychological sacrifice is very difficult. Even Umar bin Khattab said, "Lama nu'ti ad-daniyata min dinina." So I invite you to study Islam again. You know, in present time, everyone speaks of jihad. Jihad. It is nothing. Jihad is not a permanent activity of Islam. Jihad is a very, very rare activity. I can say that I have studied Islam in detail, so I can say that in Islam, peace is the rule and war is a rare exception. This is the gist of my study. Peace is the rule in Islam and war is a rare exception. Why? Because every war can give you only a prick victory, either defeat or prick victory. Through a war, you cannot achieve anything. No one was able to war, or no one was able to achieve anything through war. Even superpowers. Even superpowers cannot achieve anything through war. War is not useful for construction. Through war is only a source of destruction. It is not a source of construction. War can give you negative result, but no war can give you positive results. So in Islam, war is not an option. Only in compulsive situation, Islam allows you to go to defensive war. That is a limited war. In Islam, defensive war is a limited war. And the best example of the Prophet of Islam is that he never entered into a full-fledged war. Though some ghazawat that are called war in the life of the Prophet of Islam, though they were skirmishes. No ghazwa was a full-fledged war. I can say with conviction on my study, on the basis of my study, that no war in the Prophet of Islam's life was full-fledged war. It was simply like skirmishes. Why? Because through war you cannot achieve anything. You can destroy something through war, but you cannot build anything through war. So Islam emphasizes on peace, on tolerance, on adjustment. There is a hadith, very important hadith. Inna Allah yu'ti ala rifq, ma la yu'ti ala unf. God grants to peace. God Almighty grants to peace what He does not grant to war. So war is not an option in Islam, except when it becomes compulsive. By option, there is no war in Islam. So all those negative talks we see, we hear these days are nothing, it's baseless. Then people don't know the value of adjustment or peace. They don't know the value of adjustment. The value of adjustment is that it opens opportunities, and it is opportunity. By availing these opportunities, you can achieve all things. In life, the most important thing is opportunity. So Islam tries to establish peace so that only to open the door of opportunities. When there is opportunity, you can avail all those scopes and then achieve what you want to achieve. This is the gist of the teachings of Islam. I can say that I have studied Islam from its original sources, from Arabic sources, and I have read all those relevant books on Islam. I can say with conviction, that Islam is a religion of peace. Islam is a religion of peace. The greatest concern of Islam is dawah. And you cannot do dawah work without peace. And peace cannot be established without adjustment and tolerance. If you read the Quran with the objective mind, there is a verse in the Quran, yuzillu bihi kasiran wa yahdi bihi kasira. In the Quran, misguided people, some people, and also it guides some people. It's source of guidance and source of misguidance, both. Why? It depends on your mind. Quran is a book of guidance. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. Quran itself is a book of guidance. But if your mind is negative, then you will read verses in negative sense. If your mind is positive, then you will find positivity in the Quran. So although Quran is a book of God, although Quran is a book of guidance, although Quran is a book of truth, but it depends upon readers. If your mind is negative, then you can understand the Quran. And if your mind is negative, then you cannot understand the Quran. And here is the problem. In our in present time, all the Muslims became negative, perhaps without any exception. Every Muslim is negative minded. So when they read Quran, they are misguided due to their negative mind, and not due to the Quran. Here is the problem. Quran is clear. In the Quran, there is clarity par excellence. So Quran is clear, Hadith is clear, life of the Prophet is clear. But the problem is that present Muslims became negative. So this negativity is the problem. Due to their negativity, they're unable to understand the Quran. Due to their negative mind, they're unable to understand Quran. Quran is a book of peace. Quran is a book of love. Quran is a book of tolerance. But Muslims turn negative. Almost all the Muslims become negative-minded. So they are not able to understand the Quran objectively. I request Muslims to decondition their mind, to make themselves positive. Quran is a blessing, but you are deprived with this blessing due to this negativity. Quran is a great blessing, but due to your own negativity, you are deprived to find this blessing. So get rid of this negativity at any cost. Study Quran with positive mind, and then inshallah you will find guidance in the Quran. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم أجمعين.
Okay, we'll begin with the first question. This question is from Miss Razia Siddiqui from Delhi. Maulana, why does man find it so hard to adjust with his fellow human beings?
According to the Quranic reference, it is due to the influence of Satan. In psychological term, maybe some other answer to this question, but in religious term, I would like to say that this is due to the influence of Satan. Satan is accompanied with you every time. With every human being, there is a Satan. with every man, with every woman. There is Satan with him. Every time, day and night. So you have to be alert. You have to make dua. Every day and night you have to say, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min ash-shaytanir rajeem. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min hamadati ash-shayateen. So this is due to the test. God Almighty is Rahim Kareem, is merciful. But without Satan there was no test. So Satan is here only for our test. So we have to recognize Satan's influence. When you feel that there is a certain penetration in your personality, it is a fact that when Satan touches you, when Satan influenced you, you feel, you recognize through your conscience, through your heart, through your mind. So you have to be alert. You have to say, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min hamadati ash-shayateen. So this is the only way to save yourself from satanic influences. Prophet of Islam used to say these words 70 times every day. 70 times every day, 70 every day. So this is the only way to save yourself from satanic influences. You have to say, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min ash-shaytanir rajeem. You have to say, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min hamadati ash-shayateen. This will give you a protection, a shield against satanic influence.
This question is from Miss Sadia from Delhi. We find people adjusting in their public lives, but don't do so in their personal lives. Why is it so?
I don't think that this is the situation. According to my experience, people fail to adjust in both the life, in both the aspect of life. Only sometime when they feel that they will not obtain their interest, so they become peaceful. Otherwise, they are intolerant in public life, in family life, in social life, everywhere. Only interest makes them compulsively peaceful to follow the way of adjustment. According to my experience, this is the situation.
This question is from Mr. Ramesh from Delhi. Why does Quran say that it will misguide some men? And once misguided, is there any hope that such people would receive guidance from the Quran?
It is only a style, Quranic style. It doesn't mean that Quran itself misguide you. No. It is a matter of style. It is your negative mind that misguides you. It is very clear in other verses that although Quran is a book of guide, it is very clear, but If one is negative mind, then he cannot understand the positive message of the Quran. So the reason lies in the mind of reader and not in the Quran. This is very clear in the Quran and Hadith.
This question is from Miss Sadia from Delhi. Could you please give an example of psychological sacrifice?
Tolerance is a psychological sacrifice. Patience is psychological sacrifice. And adjustment is psychological sacrifice. And forgiveness is a psychological sacrifice. And positivity is also a way of sacrifice. So all those positive behavior are psychological sacrifices. All those positive behaviors are examples of psychological sacrifices.
This question is from Miss Nagma from Delhi. Usually our ego does not allow us to adjust. How can we overcome our ego and adjust?
You know, ego will be there. Ego is a part of a personality. Without ego, there is no test. See, ego will be there. Satan will be there. Provocative situations will be there. Without all these things, there is no test. So we have to try to keep ourselves on right path if we want paradise. If we want to find entry into paradise, we have to give this sacrifice. Although it is sacrifice, but the result is paradise. So if we want to find entry into paradise, there is eternal, there is perfect place. So we have to manage our ego. We have to manage our ego. We have to be very cautious in this matter. We have to remember paradise. When we are victim of our ego, we have to remember that if I follow the egoistic way, then I will lose paradise. So you have to activate this kind of thinking. You have to activate this kind of consciousness. Then, inshallah, you will keep yourself from being victim of ego.
This question is from Mr. Ramesh from Delhi. Why did Muslims leave the path of peace adopted by the Prophet of Islam and turned violent in later generations?
Because our life is a life of trial, test, or imtihan. So in every period, not only in later generation, in every period there were examples of all these things. So no one was born as a pious person. Everyone is just like ours. So in every situation, in every period of history, people were faced with these situations. So those who were cautious, who were alert, who keep wanted to follow the right path, they were successful. It's a matter of it's a matter of activity. It's a matter of activating your consciousness, activating your mind, activating your thinking. This is the only method. By activating your mind, you can save yourself from all those negative behavior.
This question is from Dr. Farida Khanam from Delhi. Once you mentioned two types of politics, negative politics and positive politics. Please explain this.
In other words, there are two types of politics: healthy politics and unhealthy politics. Healthy politics is result-oriented politics, and unhealthy politics is result-less politics. So you have to see the situation, you have to see the result, not just your emotions. So I don't think that politics is a shajar mamnu'a, forbidden tree. But if you adopt politics with healthy sentiments, that is to achieve some positive results, that is good. But if you adopt politics simply for your selfish end, for your personal gain, for money, for seat, for office, that is unhealthy politics. In other words, I would like to say that politics for the sake of some positive end, that is good. And politics for the sake of self-interest, that is not good. The first kind of politics is healthy politics, and the second kind of politics is unhealthy politics. I'm not against politics. I'm against the unhealthy politics.
This question is from Mr. Gul Ahmed from Maryland. Maulana, there are so many sources regarding the Quran and Sunnah. How can we tell which ones are right and which ones we should avoid?
No, you have to study the Quran directly. Quran is a clear book. In the Quran, there is clarity par excellence. So why you depend on interpretations? Why? You have to read interpretations only to enhance your knowledge. But if you want to know what is the message of the Quran, then you have to read Quran directly. Don't depend on interpretation. It's very clear. There is a verse in the Quran, وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. It means the Quran is a clear book. There is clarity, so that people may understand. So I would like to say that don't depend on any interpretation whatsoever. You have to read the Quran directly, either in Arabic or in translation, or through translation, and make dua. Oh God, give me guidance. There was a great scholar, Imam Ibn Taymiyyah. He used to pray God. He used to do dua in these words, Ya Maulana Ibrahim Allimni. It means that, oh God, give me guidance, give me guidance as you guided Prophet Abraham. So it is 2-point formula, dua and direct study of the Quran. I'm sure that if you follow these two things, you will be guided from the Quran.
His
You
next
will, you will, you will find guidance, you will find true guidance in the Quran.
Maulana, his other question is, how can we make Salat part of our youth's daily routine?
It is very easy. Make it your routine, just like other routines. I don't know any mysterious method. I don't know any mysterious method. You have to read those verses of the Quran in which Quran emphasizes that you have to read Salat. Then you have to read um, all those part of the Salat. I think if you sincerely read all those things which we recite in the Salat, it will give you interest and you will begin Salat by routine. I don't think that it is difficult. It's not difficult. According to my experience, it's not difficult.
This question is from Mr. Muhammad Akil Khan from Delhi. What is the meaning of caliph in Islam? I have heard a hadith that he who has not given bath on the hand of caliph will die in Jahaliya. What is the actual concept of caliph?
Please read my book, Deen Kamil and Deen Shariat. It is not very easy to give answer in short. So I will suggest you to read these two books, Deen Shariat and Deen Kamil. And inshallah you will find your answer sufficiently.
This question is from Dr. Farida Khanam from Delhi. Why did God put man to such a hard test? He knew beforehand that the majority of human beings were going to succumb to Satan's temptation.
Paradise is a very precious place, and only precious people can find entry into paradise. How one can find entry into paradise without paying the price? Paradise is the perfect world, the ideal world. All kind of pleasure is there. You can find fulfillment in paradise. So, such precious place wants some price. And I think this is the price of paradise. So one who is interested to find entry into paradise, he must follow all these teachings. It is a matter of price. If you want a bicycle, then you have to pay its price. But if you want to an aeroplane, then you have to pay its price. Everything needs some price. So paradise also want some price. So you have to pay that price. Allah inna silatallahi ghaliya, Allah inna silatallahi al-jannah. It means that if you want paradise, so please, so you have to pay the price of paradise. Otherwise, paradise is not for you. It's very clear.
This question is from Miss Razia from Delhi. Maulana, a friend of mine said that she says her prayers in English as she did not enjoy the Salat in Arabic. Is it right to say prayers in English?
No, it is not allowed. Imam Abu Hanifa is allowed to pray namaz in Persian, but only for converts for some short period, not for whole life. So if someone is a converted Muslim, he knows nothing except English, so he may be allowed as concession for a limited period, not for whole life. No, it is not allowed. You have to read namaz in Arabic language, just like Sahaba.
This question is from Mr. Khaja Kalimuddin from Pennsylvania. Did Allah abrogate any verse of Quran at the time of its revelation? What is the explanation of the verse 105 of Al-Baqarah where the mention of abrogation and replacing of a better one is mentioned?
According to my study, there is no, in Arabic it is nasakh. What you call abrogation, it is called in Arabic nasakh. Nu sin khay. So according to my study, there is no nasakh in Islam, in the Quran. In that verse, it is not mentioned the abrogation in the Quran. It is abrogation of previous books. There is no verse in the Quran that says that in the Quran there is a nasakh or abrogation. The verse you have referred to is about previous books and not about the Quran. So according to my study, according to my knowledge, there is no abrogation in Islam. There is no nasakh in the Quran. I have published some books on this subject. You can, if you want to detail, you can read those books.